Midnight Hound Audio presents My Uncle Dionysus by Darren Almgren. Read by the author. Being a demigod is weird nowadays. Not that it was ever normal, but you don't have heroic quests, minotaurs to slay, and the tax benefits are basically non-existent. But one of the perks for me is my uncle. I can be myself around him. Now I'm on my own, I can see him a lot more than my mother would approve of. Last night I went over to his apartment. He spent most of the night watching movies, eating pizza, and drinking. Well, I was drinking. It hadn't occurred to me until that night that my uncle almost never drank, despite having such a well-stocked liquor cabinet and a floor-to-ceiling wine rack in his dining room. "Hey, D," I said when this dawned on me. "Why don't you drink when I'm here?" I swallowed a mouthful of pizza. "If you don't mind me asking." My uncle smiled and cocked a bushy eyebrow. "When have I ever minded your questions?" He picked up my half-full glass of wine and stared at it. "To be honest, I don't have a taste for it. Never have. Everyone else tastes sweetness, earthy notes, chocolate, maybe a bitter aftertaste. But for me," he took a small sip and made a quizzical face, "it always tastes sour and metallic. Almost like blood." He put the glass back on the coffee table. "It's still alcohol and will do its job getting even a god plastered, but it's not the same." He sat back and ran a hand through his shoulder-length brown hair. "I've talked to Jesus about it. He says it's the same for him, too. More so, even. Maybe it's the whole blood of Christ thing for him. It's his literal blood. But for me," my uncle shrugged. "What about the rest of it?" I asked. "Alcohol, I mean." "It's just a preference thing. I'm known for my supposed love of booze, but I've never really liked it. Even when I was getting sloshed every other night back in the day, I never actually liked the taste of it. I simply help others lose their inhibitions to let them love and explore themselves. I can't have a good time staying sober as your mom." "How is she, by the way?" I shrugged. "She's who she is. Doesn't care much about what I do outside of work, especially who I'm with. Just cares about work." I absentmindedly checked my phone, instinctively opening my work email app before quickly shutting it off before my inbox could even load. "Yeah," said my uncle with a sigh. "Athena's changed a lot, but that's what you get when people only remember you as a librarian or a patron of teachers or some shit like that. It's such a small pigeonhole. Gods are subject to how we're remembered, even me." He gestured to the wine bottle on the table and at the rock and punk posters on the wall. "I'm known as the drunk party animal, Lord of the Bacchanalia, and Dionysus, the sex fiend of Olympus. I play the part, but I haven't completely dissolved into the stereotypes." "Yeah," I said and took a sip of wine. "Mom doesn't talk about it, but I can tell she misses the old days. She has her shield and spear hanging in her office." I paused while she talks about his work. "I was surprised when I heard you were majoring in accounting," my uncle said. "Creative kid like you? I thought you would have followed in my or Apollo's footsteps. How's the writing going anyways? I like that last story you sent me." I leaned back into my recliner and smiled. "Thanks. It's going good. I'm kind of stuck with this one part. I'm trying to write this romance in. I think it could work, but it's the emotions I'm struggling with. The actions I'm good on. That's the easy part. but I just don't have a whole lot of experience to pull from without resorting to pop song cliches. The image of Matt, the guy I'd been on a few dates with, popped in my head. Those 3 nights were my longest relationship, and even then, it wasn't going very far. My mom would never approve of him or any guy I brought home. My uncle chuckled and stretched out on his leather couch, arcing his back slightly as he got comfortable. His silk shirt was unbuttoned halfway to expose his hairy chest. It may have just been because of the leopard print of the shirt, but I suddenly understood why he was associated with panthers lounging out in the Grecian sun. A hand dangled down to the floor, and he scratched his bearded chin with the other. "I don't know if I can help you much," he said. "I've had a shit ton of dates, one-night stands, and even a few marriages. But it can be hard to put that stuff, feelings, into words." He looked around the living room, then pointed to a tall, thin bookshelf in the corner. "That doll there, I got from Maria. Gorgeous woman. Skin like good espresso and thighs that could crack a coconut like an egg. I spent a long, hot summer in Spain with her. Even got to meet her brother, but she left by Labor Day." He pointed to a Green Day poster hanging on the wall behind the TV. "I met a guy named Jack, something with a J. Had a nice quickie in the back of his old pickup at the concert. Doubt he remembers me. That was back in 97, I think." My uncle picked at the crochet throw blanket draped over the back of the couch as the Queen record that was on started playing My Best Friend. "Emily made this for me before she died. 60 years I spent with her. Heart of gold and eyes like diamonds. Took a while to get past it." He trailed off in thought. "Was she the one?" I asked. My uncle shook his head. "Nah," he said, still rubbing the yarn in his fingers. "No, gods don't usually get soulmates or one true loves or any of that kind of connection. We live too long for that. Zeus and Hera, Hades and Persephone make it look too easy sometimes, but they've had their fair share of shitty decades. They're part of the exception, them," and he trailed off again, then adjusted his shoulders and laid his hand across his chest. "I met this guy once, way back in the day. Cutest thing I'd ever seen. First met him on a river. He was playing a little tune on his pan flute, sitting cross-legged on this big log. Well, I followed the music and waited for him to finish before talking to him. You know how musicians can be when interrupted. Thought even for a satyr he was cute. Short curly hair, sun-tanned skin, and eyes like emeralds. We talked for the rest of the day. Talked about everything under the sun. In the quiet moments, we couldn't stop glancing at each other and laughing when we caught the other looking. Spent almost every day together, and every night." My uncle smiled at me and winked. I stifled a laugh while taking a bite of pizza. He laughed. "Yeah, it's true what they say about satyrs, too. Can go all night if you let them." He started chewing on a nail on his left hand. "Weird-looking cocks, though. It's the goat half, you know. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. I don't think anyone has made me laugh as hard. Could make anything funny." My uncle looked at the ceiling and sighed. "But sometimes he tried too hard. The last time..." He stopped, and his tone got unnaturally serious for him. "We found the pasture where your great-great-aunt Celine had her cows. We watched them for a while, then Ampelos got this idea to mess with them. An ancient version of a rodeo. So he found a huge bull and climbed on. It was so fucking funny to see this little goat dancing on the back of a bucking bull. He started singing and yelling about being master of the bull or something like that. He ran a hand through his hair and scratched the back of his head. Before we knew it, Selene came down from her throne in the stars and started yelling at Impelos. He said something back. I guess it was the laughter with it that really pissed her off. You know her generation. They're quick on the punishments. My uncle shifted on the couch and stared out at the open blinds at the full moon shining through. Then he was on the ground, laying in the grass and cow shit, his stomach gored open by the bull's horns. A shiver ran down my spine. My uncle kept glaring out at the moon. I looked down, not sure what to do, but then I looked back. My uncle's beard bristled around his mouth and his eyes were filled with tears. He reached over to the wine bottle on the coffee table. His middle finger touched the bottle. Instantly, a vine sprouted from the open mouth, twisting down to the leg of the table to the floor. Leaves sprouted on the vine, and bunches of dark grapes grew and swelled. When the grapevine started to wind up another leg of the coffee table, my uncle withdrew his hand and folded his arm across his chest. The Queen album ended, and I got up. "What would you like me to put on?" I asked over my shoulder. He didn't reply. I lifted the needle, and the vinyl stopped spinning. As I began to finger through the shelves of albums under the player, my uncle spoke up. "Don't let anyone tell you who you can or can't love. Promise me that, kid. Life keeps rolling, so grab all of it that you can." "Yeah," I said over my shoulder. "Of course." I flipped through a few more albums, then found an old and battered Madonna LP. Thinking some dance music might cheer him up, I pulled it out. "Hey, what about—" I stopped when I realized he was gently snoring. The green vine had faded to a withered yellow, and bunches of grapes and leaves were shriveled, some having fallen onto the floor. I put the record back on the shelf and went over to the coffee table. Quietly, I picked up the plates and glasses and pizza box and brought them to the kitchen. I put the box in the fridge and the dishes in the sink. Back in the living room, I carefully cleaned up the table, careful not to disturb the wine bottle or the vine that grew from it. When it was all tidy, I turned off the living room lamp and left my uncle sleeping on the couch. Laying in the spare bedroom, I thought about my uncle's story, what he'd said and didn't say. In the morning, I texted Matt, inviting him over for dinner. This has been a recording of My Uncle Dionysus by Darren Almgren, presented by Midnight Hound Audio.